Hello, hello, and welcome to Awaken Your Human Design. My name is Moni. This is Danny, and we have some transits for you today. So thanks for watching with us and liking and subscribing. It really helps, and let's get into it.
So tonight and for this week, with the 30 in the sun and the 29, we can expect a lot of feelings that want to commit to something. A little bit like a flood might come through a little bit in this particular transit. So we'll dig into the gates one by one.
All right, let's get into it. So here we have the sun in gate 30, which is feelings, and it's a solar plexus gate, which makes sense. And then we have the earth in gate 29, which is perseverance, and it's a sacral gate, which also makes sense because the sacral having consistent energy and perseverance is like ongoing. That's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Without awareness, the gate number 29 was also called the abysmal. The I Ching called it the abysmal. I think we renamed it to perseverance. Right.
Yeah, and even that, it's interesting because like the abysmal, it just sounds like, oh, it's abysmal, it's bad, as like what abysmal has colloquially become in our parlance. But actually, it's the abyss. The hexagrams actually water over water, and so it's the abyss of being like overwhelmed, taken over by this water, this abyss of
Taken
water.
over by, yes.
Taken over by the energy of the sacral.
By the energy of saying yes, wanting
Oh,
to say yes, absolutely.
all right, cool. Let's dive in. So first up, we have the sun in gate 30, which is clinging fire, and this is the gate of feelings. This is freedom recognized as an illusion and limitation accepted as fate. It's an emotional solar plexus gate, and it's part of collective circuitry. So collective, the keynote is sharing, and it's part of the sensing subcircuit. And then gate 30 links up with gate 41, which is contraction, and the 4130 make up the channel of recognition. Gate 30, it's experiences conceived from desire. It's meeting life on the highs and lows of the emotional wave, and desire feeling like an obsessive hunger. It's weaving the yearnings of different lives together, influencing your every interaction until it is satisfied or fulfilled.
Yeah, and the first line of that is composure, and the second line is pragmatism. So the foundation of this feelings is to keep composure in and amongst the burning flames of what ends up becoming this feeling that has everything pointing at it with 41 and all this beautiful hunger. But the hunger is just a hunger. It doesn't know yet what. And the clinging fire is stabbing at it, trying to say, is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Because I want that. I want this. And it suddenly starts to realize that the fates might get in the way. The fates might get in the way. And it's on a deeply cyclical thing with this crash wave. It's tightly bound together, meaning it's motion. The crash wave looks the most like the wave in the ocean. It never stops. It's up and down and up and down. And the clinging fire itself is this sense that there's a feeling and it feels so good and I want it, and it can cause us to do the most incredibly stupid things, and it causes us to at least try. So we end up doing lots of not stupid things, things we're wicked proud of. Both times the clinging fire is nervously sitting there afraid it won't work. And you put that in an emotional process under pressure because it's pointing at gate 41, and then you have gate 29 as its polarity, and 30, I mean, as its opposition on the wheel, opposite of it on the wheel. And
Polarity
then
and opposition, the same thing.
yep. And then you, when you put all those, when you put that little soup together, 30 says, I have this clinging feeling. I'm going to cling to it because I want it so bad, but I don't know if I'm going to get it. And I'm going through this process. And please, mind, don't get in the way. And oh my God, it's awful tumultuous in here. And I don't know what's going to happen. And all of that goes on amongst this backdrop of the acceptance that there's a certain amount of composure. I guess I just have to accept that I must remain a certain amount of composure. 30 learns to stop going off the handle. This is a week of don't fly off the handle, but enjoy what the hell happened.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Yeah, because for gate 30, for the clinging fire, the hexagram is fire over fire. So similarly, we'll get to gate 29 with the water, abysmal. But yeah, 30 is fire over fire. And it's like there's so much happening. There's so much taking over, learning how to handle that and have composure because it's just so intense, especially with the emotional wave of the fire.
the emotional feeling that it's never going to be enough. And then the recognition that, so what? And how can I even prove that that's true? Talk about a process over and over again. So,
Mm.
yeah.
All right, cool. So next up, we have the Earth in gate 29. This is the abysmal. It's the gate of perseverance. It's the deep within the deep. Persistence, despite difficulties, has its inevitable rewards. Gate 29 is a sacral gate, part of collective circuitry. So think sharing as the keynote, and it's part of the sensing circuit. And gate 29 links up with gate 46, which is the determination of self. And the 2946 make up the channel of discovery. Gate 29, when answering yes, commits energy to something or someone new and will persevere through whatever the cycle of discovery brings. Perseverance is cyclical. Each correct commitment made supports the maturation of your full potential for discovering who you are in relationship to others and the world.
Mm. This saying yes gets people into trouble because it's a response. And it's a
Mm,
response that also would like to share the experience. It wants to share the being in the right place of the experience. That's what it wants to say yes to. And the sacral will say yes to almost anything if you're not aligned with your strategy and authority. And that saying
mm,
yes is to, I'm saying yes to entering into this experience. It's the perfect companion for 30 that needs some responsive juice to finally figure out what is the feeling. But if they don't follow their strategy and authority, they're saying yes to all kinds of things. And then the fates of 30 turn into sheer fire and burn everything down. Um, Proverbially, seemingly, nothing gets burned, everything's fine. If the person's awake to their nature, they just see it for what it is. I have to accept my composure will allow my 29 to understand that, yeah, sometimes I said yes and sometimes I say no. 29's the draftee speaks to everything. The draftee for line 1 is, oops, I'm being swept away. Apparently I said yes, and it suddenly brings me into all kinds of things that my clinging fire wanted to feel. So when you add these two channels together and you get 46 from the vessel of love and 41, just think of how that cocktail keynotes. It keynotes of my love of being in the experience. And I love to participate and sustain with the sustaining energy of sacral. That's almost abysmal because it keeps me at it. I said yes, it keeps me at it abysmally long, but I'm feeling the feeling that I want that 41 released the power for. Finally, I have clarity. That's what this is supposed to have. But that's like, again, threading the needle, threading the eye of the needle. It's not the easiest thing, to thread that needle. So this is a time to really discern, essentially, when you put these two things together. Yes to the clinging fire or no. So it's sacral response. I
mm.
mean, it's like it doesn't know. It knows it wants to share stuff. It knows it wants to share its energy to the commitment. Let's go there. Let's do the thing. Let's be in the experience. And 30 is very often taking us away from the experience with all of its desire. But I want it more like this. But I want it more like that. And so these things have to make peace with each other. But it is a heck of a opposition to go ahead and recognize that these two things were meant to go together. Well,
That's real cool.
mm-hmm.
All right. Continuing on to our incarnation crosses for the week. First up, we have the right angle cross of contagion, which adds the 14 and 8. These are innocent instruments of fate who can step in and unexpectedly change the fate of others through experience, discovery, and learning. Then we'll move into the juxtaposition cross of fates, which adds the 3420. And these are energetic and persevering charismatics at the mercy of the fates, who throw caution to the wind in their obsessive commitment to fulfill their desire, potential mystical teachers. And finally, we'll move into the left angle cross of industry, which also adds with 3420. This is a human dynamo, very busy working, building, and bonding to satisfy the underlying motivation for humanity's progress. It's a burning desire to feel the emotional potential in each new experience.
In each new experience that ends up building something. And this industry is exactly what it sounds like. And it says industry comes from contagion. And if we go back, it says after the explanation of the previous cross, and then finally the clarification in the principles, it's time to go do something with it. It's literally time to move that through. And contagion simply says, I'm contributing so much because gate 8 and gate 14 has the power to do that. Two sacral gates in this cross, and it is contagious when you have this clinging feeling that you want to satiate and it needs to be shared, and then suddenly you also start doing the work with it. 14 does the work. 8 contributes that to the greater good and to expressive goals of humanity through the act of empowering the other in that contribution. And it's contributing essentially its feelings. And that, listen, you explain your feelings through a story, and that flies like wildfire. You try and logically explain it on a piece of paper with ones and zeros. That, rumors fly, and the truth is, a little slower to pick up. It's the same thing here. That passion and that desire flies, and it's got lots of juice to fly on. It acts out its contagion, and that contagion can only lead to something we would call industry. So here we build things. We don't necessarily finish the building. The industry people might very much think that, oh, this is supposed to be mine. No, you're a 3420. What do you even know? You're just busy doing stuff in the now. Maybe you know something, maybe it's yours, but very often what you did is going to be moved on through others, not so much you. You're half a sacral dummy. What do you know? I could say that because I'm a sacral being.
Yeah, and
And
you're being silly.
I'm being silly because the sacral doesn't necessarily know until it's saying
Mhm.
yes or no to the thing. Gate 21, I mean
Mhm.
gate 29 is like the description of the sacral in a way.
Yep,
Where
I'm doing this. I'm devoted.
yep, I'm in, let's go. One, two,
Yeah,
three, and 3420 says, yeah, I'm in fast. Let's hurry, run.
yeah.
So
Well,
that's
because
a
it's
lot of I'm in.
And just for some context for our viewers, Danny is saying like, oh, the sacral doesn't know because we're talking about awareness centers. So it's the spleen, the ajna, and the solar plexus are awareness centers. So anything that's not one of those three, the other six, has no awareness. It's just having the mechanical things that are happening, but it can't have that level of awareness that one could develop with the spleen, the ajna, or the solar
Right.
plexus.
Like a sacral response, for instance, the awareness of the spleen, the ajna, and the solar plex pick up what it all means. Yet the sacral response itself was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that it's aware, it's just that it's perfect. Very godlike now that I think of it. This all is. This
It's
whole
all
thing is
so
just,
beautiful. Like
it is.
the deeper I go into human design, it's like the more beautiful it is. Like I get so like emotional because it's like so beautiful. The more you
uh,
look at the mandala and you make the connections and the patterns and understand how it all ties together. And it's like, oh, it is. It is our wiring. It's our blueprint in the most
Yet
beautiful
when
and
I read,
divine way.
yeah, and as we read for people, I know what happens with me. When I read for them, I can still distill it down to, hey, here's you, without
Yeah.
having to complicate their life too much of here's a
Yeah,
book,
you don't
read
need
it.
to know like why the hexagrams. You don't need to know this, that, whatever. If you want it, it's real fun, and I like doing that. But I love with human design is I can give people really bite-sized, tangible. Like here, if you don't remember anything else, take this with you and live it out.
Right.
Like I love that human design. It can go endlessly deep if you want to swim in the abyss, or you could just give somebody a perfect little nugget to understand themselves better and move through life more, harmoniously and
Mhm.
everything in between.
The movement from contagion to industry and being busy. Love it.
Perfect. So finally, we have our hexagrams for the week. We have the sun in gate 30, which is clinging fire, which makes sense because the trigrams are fire over fire to make the clinging fire. And so in my I Ching book, hexagram 30 reads clarity because fire is like a clarifying force in the trigrams. And the
Mm.
image reads double light gives rise to clarity. Great people with continuous light illuminate the four regions. The trigram for fire and light is doubled in the hexagram, both inside and outside. So this is not just a flash of light that vanishes into the gloom, but continuous illumination. The inner awareness of great people shines out, spreading understanding further and further into the world, perhaps not because of how brightly it burns, but because it is an unbroken stream of light.
Yeah, clinging fire that burns and burns and burns, a continuous light. That's amazing because the clinging fire person will experience that as sometimes continuous light, but they'll experience that plenty as this is continuous darkness. So let's wake more people up so they can see it's just part of a little process that is meant to light you up.
Mm-hmm. Super cool. All right, next up we have the Earth in gate 29, the abysmal, and it's water over water. Because again, the abysmal doesn't mean it's bad and it's miserable. It's that it's the abyss of water. It's water over water that's like overtaking. And so in the I Ching book, it reads repeating chasms. Waters flow on and reach the end, repeating chasms. A noble one, consistent in character and action, teaches things by repeating. Many small tributaries flow together to create a broad river. Many small commitments flow together to create a powerful character. A noble one understands that just one extraordinary leap of faith is not enough. By acting consistently, he creates a continuity of principles that people can depend on when all else is in flux. Such repetition is a way of conveying a message to others and sometimes also of convincing and changing yourself as you learn more skillful ways of thinking. This is like the water. It carves out a course and creates its own momentum.
29, the way they, many small commitments, that's what 29 is doing. And it's worth pointing out that 29, the way you just described it, is also what informs 46's capacity to have it look like serendipity, but it's really the result of many things that basically commitments that went before.
The deep of the deep
The
commitment.
deep of the deep that came along and did that for 46 so that it could have that serendipity. This is very much a part of that process.
That's so cool. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. I
All
like
right.
it.
Fantastic. So, tying it all together for our viewers, what can they expect for gates 30 and 29 this week?
Jumping into stuff, saying yes, you know what, just go ahead and get a little carried away, but don't get carried away with stuff that costs the farm or drains your bank account, stuff like that, breaks your car, races down the road and kills somebody, because all those feelings are available, including betting it all on lucky number 8, whatever at the craps table. Just it's all there. That's a clinging feeling. I want to win. We can win. It's all there. Be careful of being swept away. And at the same time, if it's not going to, be the worst thing in the world, go get swept away. Pick the things that aren't super consequential. Get swept away. Don't worry about it. And if it's too consequential, wait, because the clinging fire with yes next to it is just as liable to jump like a 5125 is. Except it's going to jump into a whole bunch of commitments and obligations and things it's going to have to do. Whereas 51 just says, I leapt, what I mean? Has nothing to do with you. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, you know what I mean? But 29 does, and 30 absolutely has everything else to do with the other, it's shared. So
Interesting.
don't
Yeah.
just leap.
Yeah. I always feel like any of the transits that come through, it's like play with it, have fun with it. Just also know it's not yours.
It's not, it's going to pass through.
Yeah, it's going to pass through and you can enjoy it, but also know that like you could end up with an energy hangover.
Right.
If you let something take you over to such a ridiculous degree that you like make some bad choices, you're gonna have to live with those. But you can still kind of dabble and like play in like the waters. And so yeah, with like the 29, the devotion, like that's the earth. So it's like grounding and like what gets you so excited? Like what is it that you want to be devoted to? What is it that just like, oh my God, I'm so into doing this that I could put that energy in, and then yeah, with the 30, it's like the feelings and the passion and that like intensity. And it's like enjoy it and just, follow your strategy and authority. Always go back to that, but just know that those energies are going to be out there to kind of like enjoy the depth and like see what you are devoted to. And also with that 30, like with that clinging fire, it's like fire, it like clears the brush. It brings that clarity and that light and that awareness. So it's like through devotion, seeing what you can also clear out of like, what are you into? What are you not into? What is like the brush that needs to be like burnt out?
Burn it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let it burn up. It's the clinging fire with gate 29. A lot of it in its mundane expression might even get missed because this stuff asks us to do stuff. So in the mundane sense, if you said, I don't feel like doing it, well, you skipped right by it, and that's okay too. So a lot of this may even get missed because it's asking us to do stuff quite a bit. So but if you do find yourself having this energy pour through, don't bet the farm on anything. In fact, I'll say that during many of these transits because they have
Always.
various things, but this is one where you'll have arguments over feelings or wicked agreements that propel
Mm.
some new yes. Find out what new yes got propelled forward in your life that's not mundane. That would be a great thing to check in on this week as this transit moves by.
Hmm. Yeah, and if you are in that situation, you like reminded me, it's like if you're in a situation with people and like feelings do get intense, like it's okay to step away and be like,
Mm,
like just either say like I got to take a break for like 10, 15 minutes, we'll come back to this and like
mm.
communicate that. Or, sometimes, it just gets a little awkward and it gets a little weird and you don't want to talk and they don't want to talk and it's just like you can feel that tension in the air. It's just like it's okay to like separate, go to your room for a little bit, close the door, lay down, allow that intensity of the energy in the fight, like allow that to kind of settle down a bit and then you can come back together. And I find when I practice this with my boyfriend, it's inevitably like, I'm sorry I did this, and he's like, I'm sorry I did this, and then you get to like make up, instead of when you feel that tension and it's like, you get defensive, you get weird, the energy's all weird and funky and you get all like, yeah, and then it's like you're
Yep.
gonna say something stupid, they're gonna say something stupid, and it gets all dumb, so it's like stay on the smart side of stupid, separate auras, go, take a walk for 10, 15 minutes and come back and realize you love the person and the energy just got weird.
I like that. Stay on the smart side of stupid. I think it's how you said it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wicked interesting the way you said it, because it is very true. I think you're right. People may disagree over stuff about this, but for God's sakes, it's not personal.
Mm.
So that's the thing. One of the things that gets wrapped up in all of this is you might have a heightened sense of letting it be personal. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And just recognize it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
This is collective action here.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I love. Like, really, like, I'm like such a huge proponent of like separate auras. Just like
Hmm.
go stand 15, 20 feet away, for again, 10, 15 minutes. That's all it really takes. Like, even a minute if you can, but if you can, like 10, 15 minutes. And then you can realize, oh, that stuff's not me. Like, that was just some weird energy that either there's the other person's or it's just in the combination of you two. And it's like you could literally feel like, oh, it's not personal. And then you could realize, oh, that's where I acted a fool, and that's what this is. Like, you can really step away. So it's like, man, I wish I knew this in like years ago. Like, oh, you could just step
Mm.
away for 10, 15 minutes and come back, instead of like feeling like a defensive animal that needs to like claw your way to like safety or whatever. And then just ruining relationships with it. So yeah, like if things get a little intense, just step away
Part
for
of
10.
what 30s desire and clinging feeling for is for spiritual light and mystical progress, because that's part of the human condition. So you might go off on a little journey. You might start writing a book, and then you might stop when the week's over. So just check it out.
Yeah, see where the energy takes you. And as always, like follow your strategy and authority. And it's like if you're a projector, if you're a non-sacral being, manifestors, reflectors, any of it, like if this is lighting up your sacral or your root or anything, really, honestly, if this is lighting up like motors that you don't usually have, like just be aware that it's lighting something up. And again, it's okay to just take a break and lay down even for 5-10 minutes. You don't need to take like a 3-hour nap. You can if you want. But honestly, it's like if you just go lay down for 5-10 minutes, it'll help sometimes when it feels a little maybe too like this, if it's lighting up your
Dissipate the
root, your
energy.
sacral.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to help dissipate that energy. Yep.
yeah, it's magic.
Well, I feel pretty good.
I feel great. All right. So thank you everyone for hanging out with us on another transit for the week. And thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing and all the good stuff. It really helps and it makes us happy. And we'll catch you next week for another transit.
Make sure to share with your friends, and we'll see you next time.